Welcome to YouTube channel SKS Education Tech. Video number Learning and Teaching M9. Title Teaching Methods for Developing Performing Skills. I am Professor Satish Kumar Soni. Let us start. To understand how the performance skills are developed in the trainees, so let us see then an example of riding the bicycle. Phases of skill training of riding the bicycle. In phase 1, explaining the function of different parts and controls. In phase 2, assisting and supporting learning balancing processes. In phase 3, monitoring self-learning till intended mastery of the skill. So, you need to divide the total skill into different parts. Some part may be cognitive or related to mind, and some parts may be related to the physical activities. A simpler skill may be learned by practicing the whole skill at a time. A complex skill or an art can be better learned in small parts or in small steps. And there are three methods for learning these performing art or skill: progressive part method, reverse part method, and mixed part method. Time and effort invested shall depend upon prior learning and family traditions of the learners, so that the genetic structure helps in learning the performing skills if you belong to the same trade family. Any performing skill has to be analyzed, and skill has to be broken down into clusters. Clusters means the clusters of parts of the skills. So skill is divided into clusters. For example, cluster 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then these clusters are divided into subclusters and then subclusters into parts. So for instance, cluster number 1 has been divided part 1.1.1 to 1.1.6. So any performing skill, if it has to be taught, then the first duty of the trainer or the teacher is to divide the skill into parts and subparts, clusters, subclusters. So that is what is the analysis. And then you decide which parts to be combined together as the first step and second step and so on and so forth. For instance, example of riding the bicycle. So the cognitive clusters will be important parts of bicycle, recognize and tell functions of each part, practice sequences of actions in each psychomotor cluster. So that is the cognitive or mind related activity and clusters. Psychomotor clusters, the first cluster may be riding on the bicycle. There may be several activities, subclusters and parts of the skill. Balancing of the bicycle, number of subparts of this cluster will be there. Pedaling and braking the bicycle, again it can be broken down into number of parts. Getting off the bicycle. So these are the four psychomotor clusters, that means related to the physical activity. First three were clusters related to the mental activities. So cycles of skill learning is explained in this graphic. Skill analyzed to clusters, clusters analyzed to subclusters, subclusters analyzed to parts. Faculty or teacher innovatively analyzes a big skill into parts, considering students' attributes as well. Then, in the synthesis stage, parts are learned and then these parts are combined into subclusters. Subclusters are combined and practiced into clusters, and the practice will go to combining all the clusters and practicing the total skill. Every student synthesizes in sequences of learning parts to subclusters, to clusters to skill based on the quality of his prior skills, practice to synchronize mind and body, and intrinsic motivation to learn. Analysis and synthesis of an intended skill are an art. Faculty breaks down the skill or art into clusters and subclusters and basic parts and sub-skills. Some interested representative sample of students may participate in planning stage of the learning content and sequence. Faculty orients the learners and clarifies foundation concepts, procedures, processes implied in learning the skill considering their age. Faculty motivates learners extrinsically or intrinsically. In case of adults, it is intrinsically by connecting skill with students' future concerns, requirements, and inherent passion for the skill. Learners practices and use their individual action and reflection on learning to develop expected mastery over the skill with passionate and regular practice. Developing clusters of performing subtasks or parts of an art or skill. Skills inculcating methods. So there are three methods. The first method is progressive part method. For instance, for the cluster 1. So suppose there are 6 parts in this cluster, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they are in sequence, in such a sequence that the previous sub-skill is included in the next sub-skill. So this is how the progressive part method goes on from 1 to 6. So the difficulty level of 6 is much higher as compared to part 1. So this is known as progressive part method. Second is reverse part method. In this reverse part method, the most complex part may be learned first and the other simpler parts may be learned later on. So this is what is the learning takes place in a reverse order, and that's why it is known as reverse part method. For instance, in case of bicycle riding, balancing is the most complicated part. So first you make the learner ride the bicycle and start pedaling it, and then you hold the bicycle by the seat of the driver, and the bicycle is not allowed to fall. And that is how the most complex skill of balancing is learned first and then the other parts are learned. So this is the reverse part method. Mixed part method, some sequences are in reverse direction, some sequences are in forward direction, and that is how the reverse part method is operated. Skill learning phases of a complex art or a skill. Learning phase 1 is mental learning. Observing and cognitive practicing are of parts, sequences, and time per part and passes in the environment of home, laboratory, studio, or workshop. Cognitive understanding and practicing the parts of the skill, and learning and performing different parts and clusters under close supervision, individual parts. In phase 2, physical practicing in real like environment, comprehending the resources and constraints in the environment, performing with confidence and awareness that the master performer and the people are observing your performance. Learning phase 3, physical practice in real environment, performing with confidence and ease and total safety, the total skill and art in real environment with remote supervision of the real master and your own quality standards guiding you to perform. Let us take an example of a dance. So in learning phase 1, you are practicing all the steps, all the parts of the dance yourself under the supervision of the trainer, and you are learning small sequences and small parts under the supervision. In the second stage, practicing in the real like environment means you are dancing on the stage without any audience, and in the third phase you are dancing in the real uh, stage with the auditorium full of audience. So these are the three stages of learning the performing skills. Performing skill, smooth mind and body coordination. Learning phase 1, performing in lab, studio or workshop environment. Faculty introduces the context and scope of the skill and its sub-skills implied in program outcomes. Faculty demonstrates sub-skills considering safety of all involved and expected performing quality. Allows supervised practice of sub-skills by learners, pointing out quality improvements. Allows learners supervised practicing of in executing suggested clusters of sub-skills one by one, pointing out quality improvements in executing each suggested clusters and sub-clusters. So this is phase 1. This is phase 2, performing skills, acquiring and demonstrating smooth mind and body coordination, performing in real like environment. Relate each clusters of sub-skills with total performance and attitudinal performance quality. Faculty demonstrates cognitive and psychomotor reflections and allows supervised skill practice. Independent practice with peer feedback based upon published assessment rubric. So, in this phase 2, the use of rubric is very useful for getting the feedback from the experience of the students as well as of the trainer. Phase 3, performing total skill in real environment. Learner demonstrates larger number of clusters of sub-skills and point out the finer cautions to continuous quality improvement. Learner performing total task or larger number of clusters of sub-skills along with the master performer. Faculty gives feedback on specific shortcomings after performance. Faculty allows several performers to practice the total task in competitive environment with scoring rubrics. Faculty gives public and personalized feedback to each performer on their strengths and weaknesses based upon published rubric. Faculty rewards better and the best performers and motivates weaker ones to practice more. Let us now understand the Deming cycle PDCA, plan, do, check, and act. This is a cycle which should be practiced continuously in learning any skill or performing art. So you have to continuously check yourself whether the quality is improving or not. The PDCA cycle is looking like this. Plan what you are doing. Do what you said you would do. Check that you did it right, and act on anything that went wrong to avoid errors of the same nature in future. So initially faculty checks while supervising the practice, then learner checks on his own using the rubrics, etc., and using their own reflections of the learning. That is how PDA cycle helps you continuously keep record of quality improvement. This is a very important aspect, particularly when we are training adult students. Faculty as a model performer or trainer for adult learners. A faculty need to have mastery over a skill to be developed in addition to analyzing and synthesizing its parts into logical and psychological ways, considering students' relevant attributes and attitudes to facilitate efficient and effective learning. Faculty need to do some action research on PDCA cycle of analysis of skills and must try to understand the principles of andragogy nuances of learning by adult students who are self-directed learners and have intrinsic motivation to learn. Motivation is possible only when the skill related by the faculty to either their aspirations of careers or inner drive or passion to learn the skill. So this is typically required in case of adult learning skills. Thanks for listening with interest. Please go to YouTube new channel of Professor S.K. Soni on education technology, SKS Education Tech, to view more useful video programs on educational technology.